Hearing the last terrifying moments of a loved one before they vanish, or something sinister happens, is the stuff of nightmares. Equally scary are the creepy phone calls from people claiming to have answers to an unsolved mystery that they won't reveal. In all of these cases, the eerie phone calls only make the unsolved cases even more disturbing. Number 5. The unsolved case of Dale Williams is one of the strangest missing person cases involving a phone call. Dale has been missing for more than 20 years, and this unsolved case has had little development in that time. Dale was last seen on May 27, 1999, on his way to pick up a stranded motorist. He lived with his family in the small town of Nucla in Colorado. It was a town where everyone knew everyone. Dale ran an auto shop. He wasn't a mechanic, but did bodywork on cars. On the day of his disappearance, he received a phone call from Paradox Valley, where a motorist's car had broken down. A friend was in the shop with him when he received the call, and even though the friend didn't hear the peculiar call, he said he guessed it was a woman by how Dale responded to her. Dale said he'd bring a wrecker, but the caller claimed they just needed a jump. Dale left the shop and stopped in at a customer's office at 12:15 to tell her that he couldn't fix her windscreen that day due to the emergency call-out. This was the last time he was seen. What makes this call particularly strange is the location. Paradox Valley is about 25 miles from Nucla. Even today, according to Dale's daughter, cell phone signal in the area isn't great, but the call allegedly was made from a cell phone. It's also odd that Dale went in the first place rather than a mechanic that worked at the shop. But if he thought it was going to be something simple, he may have figured it was better to go on his own, as it seemed to be an emergency. Dale's wife realized he was missing when he didn't come home that night. She and his friends searched the town for any sign of him, but with no luck. He was then reported missing, and the friends and family started to put up missing person flyers. About 6 weeks later, Dale's truck was discovered submerged in the nearby confluence of San Miguel and Dolores rivers. But this wasn't the end of the mystery. Dale wasn't in the vehicle, and there was no sign of him in the river. The driver's side window had been rolled down partially, something his friends found odd as Dale always drove with the window all the way down. The ignition was turned on, as were the windscreen wipers for some reason. The angle the wheels were at indicated the truck had driven off the highway at a sharp angle. It had not been an accident. Another peculiar discovery was made at the post office. For weeks, someone had been taking down Dale's missing person flyers. Eventually, a hidden camera revealed it to be a man Dale had once been friends with in high school. Dale and his wife had helped this man's wife escape the terrible relationship she was in, and they helped protect her and her children. They refused to tell the man where the woman had gone, but eventually she got in touch with him. About a year before the disappearance, torn photographs of the couple and bullets were left outside of Dale's shop. Then a weapon that corresponded with the bullets was dropped into a deposit box at Dale's wife's store. The weapon had been stolen from Dale's store, but after the two threatening items, things went quiet and almost back to normal before Dale vanished. The ex-friend was interviewed by police, but apparently had an alibi for the time that Dale disappeared. Since then, no suspect has been identified, and the creepy case remains a mystery. Anyone with information that could put an end to the mystery should contact the Colorado Bureau of Investigation at 303-239-4211. Number 4. When Sandra Landrum left her parents' home for the final time, she was wearing a red shirt and jeans with no shoes. She'd recently turned 18, but was still a typical teenager. She would often call friends at home, her mother getting off the phone to let her daughter chat to whoever she wanted. But on September 29, 1975, Sandra's mother was busy on the phone talking to Sandra's older sister, and Sandra decided she couldn't wait. She told her mother she was going to Dairy Queen half a block away to use the payphone. This wasn't exactly uncommon for the time period. She didn't take anything with her, but never returned home. Sandra's parents reported her missing the following day, but police believed she had just run away. She'd only turned 18 months earlier, so they figured this was her moving on to get her independence. She had a few minor run-ins with the police previously, but it was nothing major, and they didn't think anything was wrong. Of course, with nothing but Sandra and the clothes she was wearing missing, Sandra's family were a little less convinced. That paranoia that something terrible had happened only increased when the family began to receive creepy phone calls. Despite there being little media attention, someone felt the need to call the Landrums and let them know that Sandra was no longer alive. The caller would frequently describe the end of Sandra's life in twisted detail, and on at least one occasion, gave a location for her body. But when police searched the location, nothing was found. No trace of Sandra has ever been found. No activity on her credit card or social security number ever turned up, and police now believe she met with foul play. It's not known who she wanted to call that day. It could have been a typical conversation. Given she originally wanted to have it at home and only left because she didn't want to wait, it seems unlikely it was something she wanted to keep a secret. It's also not known if she even made it to the Dairy Queen. Someone likely knows what happened to Sandra Landrum, whether the mysterious phone calls were true or not. Union City Police are investigating the case and can be contacted at 770-306-6862. Number 3. For more than 26 years, the parents of Balraj Singh Ratu have been asking what happened to their son one night in November. Years later, the car and his clothing have been found, but what happened to Balraj remains unknown. The only clues about his mysterious disappearance are 2 chilling phone calls that took place in the following days. Balraj was just 6 weeks away from his 20th birthday when he disappeared. He lived with his parents in Surrey, Vancouver, and worked at the same taxi company as his father. On the evening of November 6, 1995, Balraj was enjoying himself. He'd borrowed his father's car to go and hang out with some friends, and was last seen by a guy that he worked with. According to the man, he'd seen Balraj sitting in the car with a friend drinking a beer. It was nothing out of the ordinary. Balraj didn't return home that night as expected, or any other night. It's not known how long would have been unusual for Balraj to be away from home, but by the second night, his parents knew something was wrong. That's when the first of the 2 disturbing phone calls came. It was 6 minutes past 1 in the morning when the call came. Balraj's father answered the phone. Not only did Balraj look a lot like his father, but he also sounded like him. So when his father answered the phone, the caller thought they were talking to Balraj. It was a young woman's voice who said, quote, "Raj, you were beaten up, eh?" then began laughing. The following night, at the exact same time, another call came. Balraj's father again answered the phone. This time, the woman sounded like she was older. The woman told Balraj's father that he was no longer alive. On the 3rd day of the disappearance, it seemed like the Ratu's worst fears would be confirmed when the car Balraj had been driving was pulled out of the Vedder Canal. But this wasn't a simple case of an accident. The car had been completely burned out, and strangely, Balraj's clothing was found folded up in the footwell of the passenger seat. A $20 bill had been tucked into his clothing. This was the last lead the case got. Balraj's body has never been found. It seemed obvious that the second caller was correct, but there weren't many stains on his clothing that would have suggested he was attacked while wearing them. If the caller or callers were involved in the disappearance, why did the first caller believe she was talking to someone who had passed away? Or could it have been a group of people, and some left before Balraj's life was actually taken? Balraj's parents insisted he didn't get into any trouble, and there have been no suspects named in the 25 years since he disappeared. If you have any information that could help solve this case, you're asked to contact the Surrey RCMP at 604-599-0502. Number 2. Rebecca Gabriella Nuno has been missing since 2005, leaving behind little evidence beyond 2 chilling phone calls. Rebecca was a 21-year-old Hispanic woman living in Cedar Hill, Texas. She had 3 children at the time and was close to her parents. On May 31st, she left work as usual, but she would never make it home. Not long after, that same day, a friend from work received a chilling phone call. The phone call was from Rebecca, who claimed that she'd been kidnapped. Not much information about this case has been released, and exactly what was said in the phone call is unknown, but it was enough to spur Rebecca's friends and family into action. Friends and family began to look for the missing mother. There was information that she may have left with a Hispanic man in his early 20s. They may have been traveling in a green Honda or a black Chevrolet truck with flames painted on the side. Nothing was certain. The mystery didn't even have time to go cold before Rebecca's parents received another strange phone call. This time, a woman claiming to be Rebecca told Rebecca's parents to stop searching for her. She wouldn't go into any details, refused to speak English, or even confirm that she was still in the United States. Most disturbingly, she didn't even say if she was all right, though it's unlikely her parents would have believed her if she had said as much. The missing person case is now 17 years old, and beyond a few missing person databases, there's little information available. A woman by the name of Rebecca Nuno was arrested for driving without a license in Ellis County in 2017, and her age matched that of the missing woman. But there are also thousands of people living in the US with that surname, and NamUs still lists Rebecca as missing. Rebecca was between 5'4" and 5'10" when she disappeared, weighed between 130 and 145 pounds, and had brown hair with red highlights. Anyone with information should contact Duncanville Police at 972-780-5037. Number 1. Working alone at a gas station in the middle of an isolated area at night can be a scary prospect even in modern times when modern technology keeps us connected. But in the 1980s, such a job would have been even more isolating, and the perfect setting for a kidnapper to get away with their crime. Kelly Dove wasn't too worried about this though. She was covering her sister's shift at a gas station in Harrington, Virginia, one night in 1982. She and two of her sisters regularly worked at the station, and Kelly was used to the night shift. She was described as fierce and feisty and wasn't too afraid. Sometimes they would get calls from creepy people making obscene comments, but it wasn't too much of a worry. The first half of Kelly's shift went fine. Her mother called to check in on her at about 11 p.m. and Kelly told her everything was fine, so she said she'd call in the morning. All was quiet for another 3 hours, then things quickly took a turn for the worse. At 2:27 a.m. on June 19th, Kelly made a 911 call asking the police if they could come and check in, as there was a man hanging around dressed improperly. 2 minutes later, another call was made. This time, the creepy individual had used a payphone to call the station and make obscene comments. It's not known if Kelly recognized the voice, but she did tell the operator that the individual was driving a silver Ford. Again, she requested the police. 2 more minutes passed and Kelly called the police a third time. The final chilling call was the last time Kelly would ever be heard from. She sounded scared and begged the police to come straight away. Some shuffling could be heard in the background, then the call abruptly ended. Police allegedly arrived 2 minutes later, but there was no sign of Kelly or the mystery man. There was also no sign of a struggle, which her family thought was odd because Kelly was the type of person that would have fought back. This led police to believe her attacker may have been armed. No suspects have ever been named. A man who had gone to the same high school as Kelly was suggested, but it didn't appear like Kelly recognized her attacker when she described him to the police. Another improperly dressed man was reported at another gas station the same night, and was described as in his early 20s with shoulder-length blonde hair, but it's unknown if this was the same person. The case was officially reopened by Harrington Police in 2020, but so far Kelly's friends and family are just as clueless as they were the night that she vanished. Anyone with information on this strange case should contact 540-434-2545. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knots, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.